Happy Monday, damnation. But for folks living outside of the DMV, that is the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia, things are anything but happy because Donald Trump is deciding to commandeer the nation's capital. Why? Because of some made up, beat up story by who other than, I guess, Big Balls or whatever other incel baby has said that they were beaten up by black people in Washington, D.C. And so Donald Trump, their daddy, is going to take care of things for them. And what does that mean? That means that in the nation's capital, where he decided to do absolutely nothing on January 6, 2021, apparently he didn't know what the National Guard was then, has decided that he is going to take control. And why is all of this happening? Oh, because of that pesky thing called the Epstein files and the distractions that are necessary to try and convince the American people that Donald Trump isn't one of the stars inside of those files. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show, dear friends. Let's get into it. Hello, my friends. We begin today with all of the breaking news that has been taking over the airwaves, which is that Trump has ordered National Guard to Washington and takeover of the Capitol's police. Trump ordered what was expected to be a 30-day takeover of D.C. Metropolitan Police Department and suggested the federal intervention could be expanded to other cities. Here is the latest according to the New York Times. Trump significantly escalated his efforts to exert federal authority over the nation's capital on Monday, saying that he was temporarily taking control of the city's police department and deploying 800 National Guard troops to fight crime there. At a White House conference, the president painted a dystopian picture of Washington, including, quote, bloodthirsty criminals and, quote, roving mobs of wild youth. Fascinating. I want you to take a look at what MSNBC was doing while Donald Trump was making up a whole bunch of, bullshit.
And, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is, okay, the red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these. Baghdad we doubled up on Baghdad. Panama City, Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned, Lima, Peru.
I will not force you to listen to Donald Trump, I guess, pretend to be literate by naming off different cities around the world. But what MSNBC did here was exactly what, I don't know, mainstream cable news should have been doing throughout Trumpism and the rise of it beginning in 2015, which is putting up very clearly fact checking Donald Trump for the lies that are coming out of his mouth. While he is talking and creating this dystopian view of the nation's capital, here's where overall violent crime is. The US is down 4.5%. DC is down 26%. Homicide in the US is down 14.9%. In DC, it is down 12%. Robbery in the US is down 8.9%. In DC, it is down 28%. But who needs to be troubled with facts when you can just get on national television and create a story that other media outlets will run with instead of the facts that are? Here's the thing, folks. DC is down at historic lows of 30 years in terms of crime. But Donald Trump is putting out the National Guard, where I'm certain they will face the same hardships that they did in LA, which is, where are they staying? What are they eating? What are they actually doing while they're there? Because there aren't any protests. There isn't a, what's that thing called that happened on January 6th, 2021? Oh, that's right. There isn't an insurrection that is happening where people are beating up and abusing police officers or defecating in the halls of Congress. No, that's not happening. It's just the fact that Donald Trump wants to distract you from the reality that he's never going to release the Epstein files, the very conspiracy that he conjured up as a way to entrap different Democratic leaders by saying, well, Bill Clinton was close with Jeffrey Epstein, and oh, Prince Andrew knows all about that island. I've never been to it. But the fact is that he's not releasing those files, and he's going to do anything, including last week when he was milling about on the roof of the White House for absolutely no reason at all. And so today it's, we're releasing the National Guard. So the New York Times goes on to say this. Trump said Pam Bondi would oversee the federal takeover of the Capitol Metropolitan Police Department, and Defense Secretary Pete Kegsbreth would be at his side. Added that he was prepared to send the military into Washington, quote, if needed. Here's the thing. It's actually not needed because nothing is happening in Washington, D.C. And here are some of the things that folks were saying, including Governor Tim Walz. The road to authoritarianism is littered with people telling you you're overreacting. When Trump was having this bullshit press conference, he also mentioned the takeover of New York City, Baltimore, and Oakland. They're so far gone, he said. This will go further. We'll starting very strongly with DC. I have said this for months, if not years, that if Donald Trump had the ability to win another election, that everything that he dreamt about doing and that Project 2025 so clearly laid out in their 900-page manifesto would be to usher in martial law, would be to suspend elections, would be to jail dissenters, and be able to say that everything and everyone that goes against what it is that he wants and what it is that he says is a national security threat, and that he would have the power of the courts behind him. I said, Hitler took, 53 days for him to take over Germany, and Donald Trump, it has taken all about 6 months for him to take over America, erode our Constitution, and usher in the first stages of martial law. On top of which, he is having politicians in places like Texas and in Ohio and Indiana redrawing the map so that Republicans can hold on to power in the House and in Congress in general. Because guess what? All of his policies are wildly unpopular. Donald Trump is underwater on immigration, which was his signature issue, on the economy, another signature issue. Donald Trump is underwater. And why is that? Well, maybe because people don't want to see their neighbors and their friends and their children's classmates kidnapped on the streets by masked men and thrown into alligator Auschwitz. Maybe people are looking at the fact that eggs, the price didn't go down, but that the price of everything else has risen under Donald Trump's tariff wars. Maybe for the fact that people are actually beginning to open up their eyes and recognize that Project 2025 wasn't just some made up manifesto, that it was their concrete plan, step by step, of how Donald Trump was going to take over America and secure power for however long. Because here's the thing that happens when you usher in martial law: you don't need to have elections. And all you have to do is throw around words like invasion and crime and make up lies that contradict what is happening on the ground. But what difference does it make? He gets to do and say whatever the hell it is that he wants. And that's why Governor Walz said what he did. But he's not the only one. The NAACP posted this today. As a reminder, The same president who proclaims he wants to take back our capital during a historic 30-year low crime rate also couldn't find the National Guard on January 6th. The NAACP is absolutely right. But what are facts and figures? What difference does it make when you have Fox News and all of these other right wing outlets just running away with what it is that Donald Trump says? The thing that is happening in Washington, D.C., that is a bellwether for the rest of the country, is the fact that they are on the brink of foreclosure. Why? Because hundreds of thousands of people have lost their jobs. What is the industry in Washington, D.C.? Government. What is Donald Trump clearing out? Career appointees. Those people who don't leave with every administration, they're the holders of information. They're the ones that allow our country to run stabilized. You know how good an agency is? How good an agency is when you don't ever have to think about it. You get to go into the grocery store and buy food and not think about whether it's contaminated because you have what? The Food and Drug Administration that is overseeing to make sure that when there are spikes in things like bird flu, that you're not ingesting them. Why? Because they pull those products from the shelves. But what has Donald Trump been gutting? Those very agencies that oversee the safety and well-being of America and Americans. And so here we are. He is destabilizing this country one agency at a time, one policy at a time, and now he is bringing the military into it. So this is all, of course, to also distract you from this. Tariffs on China set to rise sharply tomorrow if no deal is reached. Trump has yet to formally sign off on an agreement to extend an economic ceasefire with China, which expires on Tuesday. Because you remember, Trump always chickens out. Well, when he decided to raise tariffs on China to, let's say, 50%, it started out with, then 100%, then 150, then it was 200%. Guess what China didn't do? Blink. Because they are going to figure out a way to operate without America. They're going to open up conversations with other countries without America being the middleman. And that is exactly what they've been doing. So Donald Trump had continued to extend the tariff deadline. And as of the time of this recording, well, things are up in the air. But this is what the New York Times has said. A trade truce between the United States and China is set to expire on Tuesday. If the two countries do not extend the time for talks or reach a last-minute agreement that would prevent Trump from reimposing sharply higher tariffs on Chinese imports and the Chinese retaliating against American goods. Top economic officials have been working to finalize a provisional agreement to extend the truce that was reached during meetings in Sweden last month. After the talks, Trump's advisors were optimistic that the president would sign off on the agreement, but thus far, he has not publicly granted China an extension. If the tariffs snap back into place, it would escalate a trade war between the world's two largest economies that rattled global markets earlier this year. Asked on Monday about the looming deadline, Trump declined to reveal his intentions. I mean, being as how the man was dancing around on the roof of the White House, does Trump even know what is happening? Because those are real questions that, of course, mainstream corporate media isn't asking. But mind you, Joe Biden tripped on a fucking curb, and that was national news for weeks. But here we have it. Trump's response to reporters, we'll see what happens. They've been dealing quite nicely. The relationship very good with President Xi and myself. With the clock ticking, Trump on Sunday night called on China to quadruple its purchases of American soybeans and noted that doing so would help reduce America's trade deficit with China. This is a man that has bankrupted casinos. This is a man that has declared bankruptcy himself at least 8 times. The art of the deal is really the art of the grift, and that is what Donald Trump is good at. Because the question that I have, and I'm not an economist, dear friends, the question that I have is, where's this money that is supposed to be flowing into America going? Because we all know what tariffs actually mean is a consumer tax, which means that Americans pay more for all of these goods. As Donald Trump lied to the American people and said, oh, these stores like Walmart and Home Depot and Target, they would quote unquote eat the tariffs. They're not eating them. The American people, however, are choking on them and will continue to do so. So, as Donald Trump weakens the dollar in order to make room for his crypto bros and again, another meme coin grift, as he tells his folks to buy in the dip, those that can buy in the dip are the ones that are in the 1%. Everyone else requires a stabilized stock market so that your 401ks don't go into the toilet or that you lose your pensions. But does Donald Trump care about that? Absolutely not. So we'll see what happens as the week progresses, but something tells me that China, like they didn't before, isn't going to blink because a deal with America is kind of like this. It's really not that good. And who doesn't know whether or not it'll stay in place for a week, for a month, for a year? Because dealing with the madman emperor of America now, he could get up and change his mind at any point. But alas, this is where we are. Switching gears for a moment, friends, let's take a look at where things are right now in Colorado. So, as Donald Trump is sending out the National Guard to Washington, D.C. to do nothing other than create fear and chaos to distract from the fact that he won't release the Epstein files. Colorado is in the midst of a wildfire. The Lee Fire grows to state's fifth largest wildfire on record. More than half a dozen wildfires continue to burn across Colorado Monday morning, but firefighters have been able to get control over several. These are the headlines that this regime and Republicans at large have been ignoring because they don't believe climate change exists. But what we've seen across the country, if not around the world, is another historic summer with temperatures that are well into the triple digits, dried out land where any spark, any little bit of spark, folks, can release wildfires that burn for days, if not weeks. Do you remember where we were back in February when the wildfires were raging across California? We used to have wildfire seasons, but now it's an everyday occurrence. And because we don't make the correlation between the ignorance around climate change that is costing us not only acreage, but it is costing people their lives and their livelihoods. And with the big bullshit bill, guess what we're also not doing? We have now decided to divest from green innovation, from wind and solar energies, and pour more money into what? The biggest lobbies on the planet outside of the NRA, which is, oh, big oil and big coal. So these kinds of headlines have become our consistent norm. And as we head into hurricane season and then tornado season, guess what else Donald Trump is doing? Well, I reported last week that he is telling people that have signed up and work for FEMA, our federal emergency management, right? That they're now going to be tasked with working with ICE. And if you don't sign up to work with ICE as he tries to fill thousands upon thousands of jobs that are needed to kidnap people off of the street, then you will lose your job. So, at a time when we need federal workers to be on the ground as our emergencies continue to increase under climate change, Donald Trump is relocating that personnel to ICE. It's hard to stomach sometimes that 77 million people voted for this. barring all logic, barring people like myself yelling out into what feels like a black hole, 77 million people said, yeah, the first time around wasn't good enough. Let's run it back again. And so here we are. And to make matters worse, I'm about to show you one of the most chilling stories that I think I've heard yet. We talked about it earlier today on Democracy-ish. That video is up now. But I bring it to you here on the Danielle Moodie Show because it's not making headlines in the places that it should be. And everyone needs to be paying attention to it. So Pete Hegseth, the ultimate DUI hire, has reposted a video on social media featuring pastors saying women shouldn't be allowed to vote. You know that Pete Hegseth, a man who I don't even know what wife he's on and has been accused of, sexual assault, as everyone has inside of the Trump administration, has all these Christian white nationalist tattoos that remember his own colleagues inside of the military flagged. Well, he believes in an alt-white Christian nation. And I want you to take a listen because not only is Pete Hegseth reposting these things, these people have infiltrated the White House and have Donald Trump's ear. It is terrifying. This should be headline news everywhere because this isn't something that is potentially coming. It's something that is already here.
So you just think they're meant to have babies? That's it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically. The wife and mother, who is the chief executive of the home, is entrusted with 3 or 4 or 5 eternal souls.
I'm here as a working journalist, and I'm a mom of 3.
Good for you.
Is that an issue for you?
No, it's not automatically an issue.
Josh and Amy Prince, along with their 4 kids, moved here from Washington State.
Do you see Amy as your equal?
Yes and no, in the sense that we're both saved by grace. We're absolutely on equal footing, but we have very different purposes, God-given.
But do you see yourself as the head of the household, as the man?
He is the head of our household.
Yes.
Yes, and I do submit to him.
So like moving here
I was just
was
gonna say that.
ultimately your decision.
Yes.
That's a great
example.
Wilson says in his vision of a Christian society, women as individuals shouldn't be able to vote. His fellow pastors, Jared Longshore and Toby Sumter, agree.
In my ideal society, we would vote as households. And I would ordinarily be the one that would cast the vote, but I would cast the vote having discussed it with my household.
But what if there's your wife doesn't want to vote for the same
Right.
person as you?
Right. Well, then that's a great opportunity for a good discussion.
There are some who have gone so far as to say that they want the 19th Amendment repealed.
I would support that. And I'd support it on the basis that the atomization that comes with our current system is not good for humans.
And Wilson, a veteran himself, is unapologetic about his view that women shouldn't be in certain leadership or combat roles.
Looking at the leadership page for Christ Church, it's all men. Do you accept women in leadership roles in the church and government?
In the church, no.
Why?
Because the Bible says not to.
Wilson is part of a broader Christian nationalist movement making inroads with the Trump administration, with a newly created faith office led by evangelical pastor Paula White Cain, and people seen right outside the White House entrance praying and speaking in tongues.
We are standing on the soil of the White House, and we are declaring your word.
How precious.
And now there's a monthly prayer service at the Pentagon, initiated by Hegseth, Wilson's highest level connection to the administration.
It's not organizationally tied to us, but it's the kind of thing we love to see.
For his part, Hegseth has publicly praised Wilson.
Now we're standing on the shoulders of a generation later, the Doug Wilsons and the others.
This is who the Secretary of Defense is taking advice and leadership from. This is whose posts he's openly reposting and sharing. Christian nationalism isn't on its way to America. It is here. And they are being unapologetic about it. There is no separation between church and state. Donald Trump is taking over blue cities, declaring his way of chipping away at martial law before he does it full on federally. And they are reimagining America through a white supremacist, white nationalist lens. These are people who are literally in relationship with pedophiles. These are people, Republicans, who have rolled back child labor laws, who have rolled back the age of consent in red states, on top of doing away with Roe v. Wade that now only exists in half of the states in the United States. Doug Wilson openly said, well, women are vessels. You don't really need any skill to biologically produce. That's what he thinks of women. That's what they think of women. Women are property of men. And the sole purpose is to populate more white babies and then detain everyone else and create a caste system that has people of color permanently on the bottom, whether in slave labor or jailed labor, and force white women into the Handmaid's Tale. That is their dream, and that is what they are operationalizing right under our nose. That's why I say every time Donald Trump does something that is outlandish, that is ridiculous, ask yourself, what is he distracting us from? What is it that they are doing right in front of our eyes while they're throwing out all of these bouncing balls all over the place? What are we missing? This is one of the major stories that we are missing. That these are the people that Donald Trump is meeting with on a regular basis. And as we have seen, he is losing his mind. And he has all of these puppeteers with their own agendas. And the thing that they share in common is white nationalism and this pseudo-Christian perverse lens in thinking about women and their role in society. They truly believe that the erosion of American society happened when women got the right to vote. That is what they said. This all ties into the erasure of diversity, equity, and inclusion. You get rid of Black people, people of color, women, people with disabilities, queer people. You erase their history, you erase their achievements. You take over the public school system. You terrorize higher education so that they don't teach anything other than what you want to be indoctrinated. You destabilize the economy, creating this crabs in a barrel situation, this situation of desperation that only allows oligarchs to succeed while everyone else is scraping to get by. And then when crime inevitably rises, well, you've already created all of these pop-up concentration camps to house them in that are now kickbacks for your major donors. Those are the dots that are being connected one by one by one. And we are but 6.5 months in. On top of which, there is this. As we continue to watch the crumbling of the American empire, we are continuing to witness the devastation that Israel is doing to Gaza and the Palestinian people. Being reported by Al Jazeera, an entire news crew was wiped out by Israel. 2 journalists and 2 cameramen killed by Israel, which has killed more journalists than died in World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Yugoslavia combined. And here is this. Members of our Congress, while they're on recess. With who? Netanyahu. And what this should say is paid for by AIPAC. So instead of tending to the needs and the crisis that is unfolding in America, they're cozying up to a genocidal maniac. And finally, Jennifer Welch, podcaster, former housewife, Real Housewife, who is hitting the nail on the head about this administration, about the millions upon millions of white Americans that voted for fascism. She speaks truth to power. And it's with this we'll close out with today. Take a listen.
With white people that triple trumped, that have the nerve and the audacity to walk into a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, an Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel. And if you want to triple Trump and you want to browbeat DEI and you want to browbeat gay people and you want to browbeat black people as you've been doing for 400 years, and you want to browbeat this generation of immigrants that come over here and open up businesses earnestly, pay their taxes. You want to demonize them and call them rapists and felons and all this shit when the felon is the teeny weeny mushroom cock piece of shit, Kankle's McTaco tits at the top of the ticket. I have fucking had it from top to bottom. White people that triple Trump should be banned, boycotted from enjoying the best thing that America has to offer, which is multiculturalism. Get your fat asses out of the Mexican restaurant. Get your fat asses over to Cracker Barrel, because nobody wants to see your fucking smug ass, teeny weeny, pink arm, big gut around. Nobody wants to see that shit. No one.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. These are the voices that folks need to listen to. Because as I continue to say, I will report, I will connect the dots, but I'm a Black queer woman in America. And very few people like to listen to folks like me, even though we are the Paul Reveres. We are the canaries in the coal mine. So we need more white women, white men of conscience, right, to speak out and speak up and to link arms and to use their power and their privilege and their placement to tell the truth. So for that, I appreciate every single thing that she said. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. I will be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. Be well and take care of yourselves. I will see you back here tomorrow.